Hi there, my name is Allison Counts. I'm Marketing Director for Candid Color Systems. We also operate a retail photography operation, Candid Color Photography and Party Pics. Our roots are in social photography, way back to the 70s. So today we'd like to talk about how we cover social events and how we make money doing it. We cover a huge variety of social events, everything from corporate and private parties, certainly high schools with their proms, homecoming, and other social events, fraternity and sororities, all of their social events, wedding receptions, not the ceremony, just the reception, a lot of anniversaries, charity galas, and reunions. We also cover things like festivals, concerts, trade shows, conventions, and some of our personal favorites to cover would be tailgating, game days, and fan photos surrounding collegiate, pro, and semi-pro sports. We have a really simple model for being successful with social photography, and it starts with taking a lot of good sellable images, collecting data, tying all of that together really quickly, and marketing or distributing the images really quickly. There are two basic financial models in social photography, if you think about it. We have the host buys and we have guest buys. And really, as the names would suggest, in one way, you get paid by the host for being there and to provide a service. And in another model, the guest buy, you're actually just gaining access from the host and then have the ability to sell your images to those that you photograph. Before we dive into those two models, we wanted to talk about a couple of just basics with social photography that you may not have considered. Social photography is really a numbers game, especially if you are doing a guest buy program. We often hear of photographers who go and cover something themselves at a very large social event, and they may not think about the fact that they could be making a lot more money if they took someone. It wouldn't just be a cost center. If you're talking about a social event where all of the photos taking place are candid photography, where people are roaming about and talking, maybe having drinks, then this is a model that we use to determine how many photographers to send to an event. We will typically send one photographer for every expected 100 guests in that kind of scenario. We also expect each one of those photographers to generate 100 what we call sellable images for every hour. The more sellable images that they generate, the more that we will sell and the more that we will make. And with the way that we pay our photographers, the more money they will make. We also give them a goal on the number of cell phone numbers and/or emails to collect per hour in order to do the marketing. We collect the data as we photograph using a tablet and then tie the contact information to the guest using a facial recognition profile. So we only have to do this one time. We don't have to enter it for every time that we photograph a person. So just an example of this, 2 photographers at an event with 1,000 guests. They get 600 photos in 3 hours. Multiple photos per guest are ideal, but 600 is not enough. They're missing out on the potential revenue and coverage of many more guests. More photographers may cost more money, but each one brings in revenue if they're doing their job and meeting their goal and taking the kinds of images that you need them to take. So as long as they're effective social photographers, they're going to make you money and not just be a cost. Really, for an event like this with 1,000 guests, you would need 10 photographers to cover this. So you would be expecting to generate 3,000 photos in 3 hours. That would help you to maximize your revenue and provide enough coverage to get every guest. What makes an image sellable? So typically we're talking about 2 or more people And we're talking about a good image. So fill the frame, so no faces in the middle or what we call the bullseye. It needs to be cropped well. It needs to be, in social photography, a unique image. I know there is the desire and even the feeling that people want you to take their image multiple times. They might think, oh, did I blink? And that's okay if they ask, but we are not typically paying in our operation for what we call duplicate images. So the same 4 people lined up the same way, taking 2 photos of them, we wouldn't pay the photographer for that extra image. So no duplicates, unique combinations of guests would be okay. So you can take the same 4 people in different combinations. So you might have 2 friends together and then get 2 other friends together and then get the entire group together. And it's up to you, the photographer, to suggest those different combinations and to do it quickly in order to meet your hourly image goals. You might take the same picture of a group if they're in front of a completely unique or notable background, or they have a different moment. Maybe they won an award and now they have a plaque or an award to include in the picture. That would be okay, and that would be considered unique. Maximizing the photographer effectiveness. We pay our social photographers based on performance. That might seem a little strange, especially if you're coming from a world of other kinds of volume photography where the photographer doesn't really have an impact over the number of images taken per hour, or not very much of an impact. But for different types of photography, here's an example of how we might pay. 18 cents per sellable image and 18 cents per phone number collected. So at 100 sellable photos, which is what we're asking to get them per hour, and 50 phone numbers, which is our goal, they're earning $27 per hour. So you can see they're going to be paid quite well for what they're doing as long as they're hustling and getting a lot of good images. We use something that we call a photographer productivity report to help us to monitor our photographer performance. Certainly we can see how many pictures that they took and how much data that they collected, but with our productivity report, which is tied to the timestamp on the camera card on the images, we can also see, did they take any really long extended breaks? Why did they not shoot for an hour? Where were they for 30 minutes? Why did they show up 20 minutes late? With social photography, it's such a numbers game that you need to have this kind of information. We also feel very strongly that when you're hiring additional people to help you with your social photography business, you need to hire for the personality and then train for the photography. If you're interested in our training guide for party pictures, we'd love to help you out. You can come by the Candid Color Systems booth, or I have my information at the end. If you want to contact me, we'll be happy to provide it to you. But you hire for personality, train for photography, train people to take good sellable images, and tell them how to approach people that will have the best result. They may be a very friendly, outgoing person, but for example, in social photography, you don't walk up and ask, would you like your photo taken? You just assume and you say, get together, and then you suggest other combinations of the guests or of the friends or the people in the picture very quickly. So you have several different poses and different combinations. So definitely always hire for personality, train the photography, and you'll do better. Our 2 approaches in covering events. We have host buys or guest buys. Again, host buys is simply where the host pays us, the photographer, for a service, and we provide the images, typically digital downloads, or guest buys where we're just getting access to be able to photograph subjects or attendees at an event and to market our images and products. We'll take a look at these a little bit more closely. With host buys, typically we charge an hourly fee, and we have different hourly fees depending on the type of organization. When we're talking about a large charitable event or a corporate event, we typically charge $200 per hour per photographer. But we're also giving them a goal on the amount of images and sometimes data that we are going to be able to collect or take. Our method is we typically send free branded digital images directly to the guests via text message. And that allows the event organizer to get their brand and information about their event online on social media much more quickly. So if they're trying to raise money for a charity, then having their brand, having that information on social media really quickly can definitely be of value. Or if it's a business, maybe it's a grand opening gala, some kind of an event where they're trying to gain awareness, then certainly getting images to guests instantly with branding on them is of a huge value. We can also give the host all of the images right off our camera card, and we can offer a revenue share to the host from our physical product sales. Very often, the host is quite interested in the data that we collect. For example, if you're at a celebrity golf tournament, you may know who bought the tickets, but you may not know who they were distributed to. So they may want to have contact information, email addresses, so that they can follow up with people who have similar interests. Maybe they want to become a member of a country club, or maybe support some kind of a charity that was being benefited at that event. Here's an example of the host spy situation. We had a private school auction. We had 180 guests and 2 photographers at 3 hours each. They paid us a $1,200 fee to be there. Now, we basically had 6 hours of photography time, so just over $100 in labor. And we were giving the images away for free again, or they paid for this service. A lot of photographers feel maybe embarrassed to charge $150 to $200 an hour for social photography time. However, at this particular event, they raised over $10 million. So you can see how a lot of these large scale events have great budgets for this kind of a service. And when you can collect data and or provide really great branding and a gift to the attendees so quickly, then the hosts love this kind of service. Here's a little bit of more information on Guest Spy. We normally are allowed access to photograph the event by the host. Sometimes you have to coordinate where and how often you'll be taking people's photos. You might have a dedicated area, or you might have roving photographer access. You might need some kind of a special access depending on the event, like a certain kind of pass. We take everyone's picture and collect their information and send links via email and or text to buy the pictures. So really your only risk in doing this kind of an event is the photographer pay, the photographer's time. When selling directly to the guests, we need a couple of things to maximize revenue. We need good sellable images like we discussed earlier, and we need a high volume of those images and a high volume of contact information. Here's an example of a guest buy scenario, and this is just an average high school prom. We had 5 photographers. It's a 3-hour event. We had almost 500 cell phone numbers collected. The students, we would take a picture, they would tap their face, which I'll show in a moment how this actually works, and they would enter their cell phone number, and they only have to do it one time. They don't have to do it multiple times throughout the event. Then we use facial recognition to tie their pictures together. And then they receive a link that leads them to all their photos from the night. So our top shooter at this event had over 400 images. We had 1,600 images taken total. So that's over 100 images an hour for each hour of photography time. And we had $2,200 in sales. And this is just the candid photos. Tailgating or fan experiences. This is another great example of a guest buy experience. And you can see our statistics that we have here, the typical number of images taken by each photographer. There's definitely timing issues with these kinds of an event. When will you be able to photograph the most people? When people are trying to get into the gate right before a game, that's not going to be the best time to stop someone and get their photo taken. You're also going to get better sales if you choose some more iconic scenery. So for example, we might have the stadium in the background and make sure that the photographers know which way to be positioned, so they have the best background scenery in order to maximize your sales. But again, this is a numbers game. So the more photographers we have who are doing a good job, which is why we need to watch their numbers, the better our sales are going to be. Here's another quick example. This was a sorority alumni event. 5 hours of shooting time, just over 400 images taken, and we had just 77 guests. We had 22 orders, and we had $800 in sales. And so we would have less than $100 in terms of our costs for photography in this. And so you can see where these kinds of events can still be profitable, even though they're not huge events. Now, here's an example of something that's done as a combination of host buy and guest buy. So the host is providing some free images that go straight to people's cell phones typically, and then we're still allowing them to buy additional products. Something like a Grandparents' Day is an event where people really want to have physical products, where they'd like to have prints or other mementos. So you can see in this scenario, we charged a $1,000 shooting fee in order to send the free branded downloads to the attendees as we did the photography. And then we sent a link to buy. And so we sold almost an additional $4,000 in products online after the fact. So what's next? So what's next? We've talked a bit about photography and what makes a sellable image and how you need to set goals and how a photographer can be effective, how many images per hour they should be getting, and how they can collect contact information. But what else can you do to positively impact your sales? This sales effort is focused really on the guest buy situation. We need to have a pretty broad range of products because we're not really sure what an individual will want as a memento from any given event. So we have a range of things from medals and frame prints, regular 4x6s. So there's quite a variety. We also have tiered pricing. So we have an incentive to buy. In the first week, we have our first level of pricing. And then after the next week, it goes up. And then after one more week, there's yet the last tier. So we're trying to get people an incentive to order early. We also are utilizing the guest information that we've collected, that cell phone numbers and the email addresses. So we have text and email campaigns, which we'll talk about. And we have a pretty simple customer experience. They don't have to do anything complicated to find their images. We take them right to them. So utilizing the guest information. This makes our marketing campaigns possible, obviously. We talked about setting a goal for collecting this information, and it can be very easy. We use a tablet and facial recognition to tie everything together. We also think about where would be the best place to be able to capture everyone. So if it's a large corporate event, we might station more photographers towards the start of the event so they can get couples as they're walking in. And that way we have everybody in our system. And again, we only do it one time with our system. If we take subsequent pictures of that person, then we don't have to ask them for their contact information again. And sometimes, certainly you're not going to remember if you took someone's picture, it's a big party. We just simply ask, has everybody entered their cell phone number on the tablet so far? And people will say yes or no really quickly, or they'll follow along to somebody else that hasn't, and they're entering their information. Doing group pictures at the beginning of an event is a great way to get a lot of contact information done quickly. So every single person taps their face and enters their information rather than taking more individual images. Again, we've got the information tied via facial recognition to all of the pictures that we take thereafter, and they only have to do it one time. Very often we are competing in terms of budget against a photo booth. So one of the things that is interesting to event organizers is a photographer can certainly take more pictures than a photo booth. A photo booth only has so much capacity. And if an event organizer wants contact information, then certainly a photographer using this method is going to collect more information than they would ever be able to collect using a photo booth. Often, if you're concerned about asking for a $200 an hour fee, for example, compare that against what someone might pay for a photo booth. So if they would pay you $600 for 3 hours, then they might easily be paying that for a photo booth. And you're going to have a lot more really good saleable images or good images for the event organizer that you can use and that will be out there on social media for marketing. Now thinking more about products, I mentioned that we offer a diverse array of products, things like metals and frame prints, even acrylics, and certainly loose prints with titles and graphics. But digital downloads are also still a top seller, and we often offer those with graphics as well. But offering event-specific graphics on all the photos whenever possible is really important. It turns the photo into a memento, it increases sales, it increases brand exposure for the event organizer and for you. We very often put our own logo on our pictures as well. It also is a way to differentiate the picture from something that an event attendee might capture with their own cell phone. And again, as I mentioned, we offer tiered pricing in order to incentivize people to buy. Then we use automated email and text marketing for an ongoing period of time in order to give people an incentive to buy. We send them a link to take them directly to their personal gallery of images. And then we also give information about our discounts if they purchase early and give people reminders before the deadlines. The customer experience is very simple. We get images to people really fast. In our case, we are most often uploading while we shoot. We're doing this through the use of tablets that are LTE enabled. Sometimes we will use a venue's Wi-Fi. However, we're not required to use their Wi-Fi as long as we have cell service. We send a link directly to their images, not to the entire gallery of images from the whole event, which makes it much easier to decide if they'd like to make a purchase. When we're doing a host buy situation, we are sending those images directly to the person's cell phone via a text message. So that shows up directly as an MMS text right on their phone. But if they do receive a link in a guest buy situation, they click on the link and they see just their pictures that have been grouped together using facial recognition. People can choose to make a purchase, check out online. Most often it's via their mobile phone, and all of the orders are shipped back to them in less than a week of the event. Here's a look at our very simple system, starting from the top left. You can see where the photographer would take a picture of a couple at an event. It shows up on our tablet, and we select the picture. Then we do what we refer to as tapping the face. So if there is multiple people in the picture, especially if it's a group picture, someone can select themselves. And then a keypad opens up where you can enter a cell phone number, an email address, or both, depending on what you need and what the host at the event might need. Once someone has already been identified in our system, then they have a little dot on their face, which shows that they've already been photographed. And then we can go on to the next group. And then they get a link in a guest buy situation that shows the website where they can make a purchase really quickly. And we'll continue to send images into their gallery throughout the evening. So this process is very simple. Compared to processes in the past for social photography, we're eliminating the need to set up a bunch of different offers and price tiers because we save that information and keep it the same from event to event, except for the event-specific graphic. We're eliminating uploading images after the event at some other time. We're doing it as we go along, and that also is a better customer experience because people get their images faster. We're eliminating the need to identify images because we're using facial recognition. We're eliminating the need to enter contact data after an event or to conduct any kind of marketing campaign because we've automated them. And we're eliminating the need to distribute anything to an event organizer or a guest after the fact because it's all done through email and text. So when the event is over, it's really nice. We're all completely done. And that's why our events can be so profitable. Just kind of a quick recap. We have two approaches, host buy and guest buy. We get really good saleable images in order to increase our volume. It's all a numbers game. The more good images that you shoot, the more money you're going to make. We're maximizing the effectiveness of our photographers by giving them a lot of these skills and by giving them goals. We're collecting and utilizing guest data. We're automating text and email campaigns. We have a really simple customer experience and a big array of products. And we've used a lot of automation and facial recognition to make this process easy and affordable. So we focus on what will generate the most value. We minimize the time we spend on the non-value added tasks like data entry. We focus on booking and photographing social events because that's where the money is made. We book more events without worrying about extra office work because we've eliminated most of it. And we focus on pleasing our customers and making money. So, in terms of the systems that we use, Candid Color Photography uses a system called Pics now, and that model is available to you if you're interested in learning more. You could stop by our booth or check out our website, but it includes all of the things that I've mentioned here today, like facial recognition and grouping the images together, sending out the emails and texts. It's tied into our lab, Candid Color Systems, to produce and fulfill the orders and to ship them out. And you get to use all of your own branding. We don't put our branding on it, so your photography business would benefit from all the branding. And it just simplifies the process for both the photographer and the guests alike. So if you are interested, we have both our Pics Now system and we have a more robust system that might cover all other kinds of volume photography. We're happy to talk to you about these too if you want to visit candid.com or nowcandid.com to learn about the Pics Now system, or stop by our booth, or here is my email address, allisonc@candid.com. I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
All right, let me get you guys right here. Just stop. That's a great shot right there with the water tower behind you. Awesome. Okay, now how about you guys do a flag? And then we're gonna break off here in just a second. There you go. All right. Hold it up good. Center power. All right. And then I'll hold that. Okay, and then if you want to come over here, I'll get your information. I'll get a shot of you too. All right, and then with a second, she'll come back and I'll get a shot of the two of you. You guys want a flag or no? Yep, all right. All right, how about fingers up? Gotta get that water tower in it. All right, perfect. All right, and then if you'll enter your information, you want one more? All right, this is perfect. You don't have to enter your information again, okay?